Have you ever wondered if you could borrow money, lend it out, or trade, all without ever having to go through a bank? Well, that's the big idea behind something called decentralized finance, or DeFi. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this whole new financial world and give you a really practical guide to how it all clicks together. So let's just dive right in. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll tackle that core promise. What does finance without banks even look like? Then we're going to pop the hood and see the engine that makes it all run. We'll talk about the tricky trade-offs of earning rewards, zoom out to see the entire ecosystem, and then, this is crucial, run through a safety checklist. And finally, we'll walk you through your very first steps in this new space. All right, so let's start with that first really big question. What if we could build a financial system without any of the old school gatekeepers? I mean, this is really the question that started it all. Imagine a world where the financial rules aren't decided in a boardroom, but are just written in code that anyone can see, anyone can check, and anyone can use. No asking a bank for permission to get a loan. No needing a brokerage to handle your trade. That is the big disruptive idea we're going to unpack. So how does this actually happen? Well, it really boils down to 4 key ideas. First, self-custody. This just means you and only you are in control of your funds. It's your keys, your crypto. Then there's transparency, which means everything happens out in the open. The rules are programmable, they're just lines of code. But honestly, the real magic is this last one, composability. It means all these different DeFi protocols can snap together, just like Legos, to build brand new financial tools. Okay, so we've got the big picture. Now let's head down to the engine room to see how the most common part of DeFi actually works. We're going to look at the core of DeFi trading, something called the Automated Market Maker, or AMM for short. And believe it or not, it all comes down to this super simple little formula. X times Y equals K. That's it. This is called the constant product formula, and it is the mathematical heartbeat of so many of the biggest decentralized exchanges out there. X and Y are just the amounts of 2 different tokens in a trading pool, and K is just a number that the code is always trying to keep the same. So how does that simple formula actually work in a real trade? Let's walk through it. Say we have a pool with 10 ETH and 10,000 USDC. A trader shows up and adds 1 ETH to the pool. So now there's 11 ETH. Well, to keep that K value constant, the smart contract automatically calculates that it needs to remove some USDC. In this case, it spits out about 909 USDC to the trader. But wait, did you notice? They didn't get 1,000 USDC. They got a bit less. That little difference is the price impact of their trade. And that price difference we just saw, well, it has a name. It's called slippage. Because your trade literally changes the balance of tokens in the pool, you're actually moving the price a tiny bit with your own transaction. Slippage is just that gap between the price you thought you were going to get and the price you actually got. Okay, so we've seen how it works for a trader. But where do those tokens in the pool come from in the first place? Well, they're put there by people called liquidity providers, or LPs. And for them, it's a real double-edged sword. They get to earn fees from all those trades, but they also have to deal with a very unique kind of risk. Here's the basic trade-off. As a liquidity provider, or LP, you put your assets into the pool, and you earn a little slice of the fees from every single swap that happens. That's the upside. But the downside is you're exposed to this thing called impermanent loss. I know it's a weird name, but it just means that if the prices of the 2 tokens you provided drift apart, the value of your stake in the pool could actually be less than if you had just held on to those 2 tokens in your wallet. And just look at how this actually plays out. If the price of one of your assets doubles compared to the other, your LP position is suddenly worth almost 6% less than if you had just held the assets. So for an LP, the whole game is trying to figure out if the fees you're earning are going to be more than the potential impermanent loss you might take on. It's a constant balancing act. But DeFi is so much bigger than just trading. Those AMMs we talked about, they're just one type of Lego block in a much, much bigger box. So now let's zoom out and take a look at the wider ecosystem that's been built with all these different pieces. Yes, you've got your trading pools, your DEXs, but then you have these huge lending protocols where you can borrow crypto or earn interest on it. You've got stablecoins, which are basically crypto dollars that keep everything stable. Then there's liquid staking and bridges to move your assets between different blockchains. And remember those Legos? You can click these all together. You could borrow a stablecoin from a lending platform and then use it to trade on a DEX, all in a single smooth transaction. And if you do use one of those lending protocols, this is the number you need to watch like a hawk, your health factor. You can think of it as a live safety score for your loan. As long as it stays above 1, you're good. But if the value of your collateral drops and that health factor falls below 1, your position can be automatically sold off. That's called liquidation, to pay back your debt. Now, all of this amazing innovation, it comes with some very real risks. People often call the DeFi space the Wild West. And you know what? They're not wrong. So before you even think about venturing out, we need to go through a critical safety briefing. The best way to stay safe is to know what can actually go wrong. So what are the most common traps and pitfalls that people fall into in this space? The big risks really fall into 3 main buckets. First, there's protocol risk. This is when the code itself has a bug, or even worse, the developers are scammers who plan to run away with everyone's money. That's a rug pull. Second, market risk. We've already talked about this, impermanent loss and getting liquidated. And finally, there's personal risk. And this is all about you getting tricked. Phishing scams, signing transactions that give a contract infinite approval to spend your funds, or the worst one, having your seed phrase stolen. So how do you defend yourself? Here's a quick checklist. Use a hot wallet for everyday stuff and a separate cold wallet for long-term storage. When you use a new app, limit how much of your tokens it's allowed to spend. Always double-check contract addresses. And here's the absolute golden rule. Keep your seed phrase, your master password, completely offline. Write it down, put it somewhere safe. Never, ever type it into a computer or take a picture of it. Seriously. Phew. Okay. After all that theory and all those warnings, it's time for the really fun part. Getting your hands dirty, but in a totally safe, controlled way. And this is the #1 most important rule for learning DeFi. Do not, I repeat, do not use real money when you're just starting out. You're going to use something called a testnet. It's like a simulation where you can get free, worthless tokens from something called a faucet to play around with. Zero financial risk. So, here's your first quest. It's super simple. Get a crypto wallet, switch it over to a testnet like Sepolia, and then use a faucet to get some of that free test ETH. From there, find a decentralized exchange, make a tiny swap for another token, and then go look at your transaction on a block explorer. I promise, doing this one simple exercise will teach you more than hours of just reading ever could. And there you have it. That was our quick tour of the DeFi world. We've talked about the big promise, we've looked under the hood, and we've covered the risks and the rewards. You've got the map, and you've got the safety checklist. So the only real question left is, where are you going to explore next?